Protect your wooden clarinet and get the most out of your reeds with Boveda two-way humidity control packs. Watch until the end of this video to learn more. Then head to bovedainc.com and use code Clarineat at checkout to save 10% on your next purchase of Boveda products. Welcome back to the Clarineat podcast. I'm your host, Sean Perrin, and I'm here today with Kornel Wolak, I believe for the third time on the podcast, but it's probably the fifth or sixth time we've actually managed to sort of meet, in person. And that's one of the things I really love about the podcast here is not just the conversations along the way, but I feel like I've met some really interesting people and keeping touch with them and making friends with these amazing musicians has just been a really great journey. Before we got on air here, we were talking about how it's been about 8 years since I first interviewed Kornel and saw his amazing performance out in Airdrie, Alberta, which I believe is your accordion player Michael's hometown, which is crazy. It's about 15 minutes from my house. So yeah, it was really a great little intimate, super awesome performance. And yeah, like I said last time, if Kornel and his duo are coming to your community, be sure to check them out. And we're going to talk a lot today about his recent and amazing Juno win, which for the Americans out there, that's kind of like the Canadian Grammys. So really big deal. And also he's got a European tour coming up, several new albums. So Kornel, welcome back to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Sean, and welcome everyone. Thank you for having me again as part of your podcast and your community. Yes, we met quite a few years ago, and a lot happened since. So it's great to stay in touch. It's great to get updated on what's up on your end, what's up on my end. It's always lovely to talk. Thank you very much for such a warm introduction. Yes, this year has started really with some big news for me. It's a very unique way of having your work recognized, getting a Juno Award for the album. The album that got the Juno is was recorded with the Chamber Orchestra of Montreal. And it was the category for it at the Juno was largest classical ensemble with Canadian music of the year. So there are two pieces on that, main pieces on that album, both by Maxime Goulet, who lives in Montreal and is a fantastic composer of the younger generation. One is called the Winter Symphony, which commemorates the harshest winter in Montreal that happened in previous century. And the other piece is his fishing story that features solo clarinet with chamber orchestra, in which I had the pleasure to be the soloist. And he wrote this piece having me in mind. The piece was commissioned by Boris Brott, who is unfortunately no longer with us. And we premiered it about 6 years ago. And it made its way onto this album. And next thing I know, one of these long winter evenings, I'm checking my students' grades, and then I get an email and another message on Facebook and Instagram saying, "Congratulations." I'm like, what happened? And someone says, "Kornel, check the news." I'm checking the news. The album got Juno, and I was all over the moon. So I'm super happy, and I think everyone who listened to it, who voted for it. My big thanks to the orchestra, to Maestro Lacombe, who conducted it, and huge congratulations to Maxime Goulet, who is a spectacular composer and a great entrepreneur in music and a good friend.
It's just fantastic. And it's so funny how you said it sort of snuck up on you because I mean, it's one of those things. I can't remember the pop artist that I heard about a few months ago, but she said a similar thing that she tried to win a Grammy for so many years, and it wasn't until she sort of stopped trying and just focused on her art 100% that she finally won one, you know. And I think that's kind of the truth of that kind of award is you can't go chasing those things. You just do what you do, and they sort of come to you if you're putting yourself in the right place at the right time with the right people, with the right skills, the right music. It's a lot of things have to line up, but it's your job to kind of focus in on what you do best and put it out there.
Absolutely. I think it's a long-term game. You know, you just have to continue on following your path, following your passion for music, for performance, for live performance, as well as for recording it. And for me, the most important thing is not to look at the rewards. You know, of course, at the end of the day, I am a performing artist who actually supports. I'm lucky enough to support my living and existence through concerts, but that is the immediate reward, right? You just get paid, like as if you go and have a day job. You do it for financial reasons. However, I never look for the reward per se, or like for awards and grants and stuff like that. Like I never take it for granted. I never do my work for that kind of recognition. It just comes from the heart, really. And so the best proof of that is that this year I got two new albums, released. It's not that I stopped, that the work ever stopped and I was waiting for a Juno. It just you keep on going from one project to the next and present those projects, make sure that they reach audiences, see if they make any difference in people's lives, and see how those projects and new ventures shape your own life. And that is my life as an artist. And this is how I share my creativity through conceiving and producing projects. That's basically the way. The two albums that we completed this year alone. One is a brand new album that I released with my duo partner, Michael Bridge. It's the Bridge Wolak duo. It's called From Back to Benny Goodman. And funny enough, that album came out in a form of a radio show where we talk between the tracks. Something new, something experimental. It actually seems that people enjoy it, especially those who listen to CDs or music when they drive. So they listen to some music and then they hear the artist. People feel closer to the artist when they hear them talk between the pieces, into announcing them with a little bit of humor, with a little bit of history, or an interactive banter, so to speak. So that was a big success. It's a fresh album that just came out last month, actually, and a new trio album that features works by Stravinsky, L'Histoire du Soldat, and then Schubert, Death and the Maiden String Quartet. They are two pieces that we arranged ourselves for violin, clarinet, and accordion. A huge amount of work. Really, that was a volume of work that I did not know what it would be before going into it, but we worked it out and we came up with really interesting arrangements. And it so happens that that album will be launched on July 1st, and we are now preparing to go on a promotional sort of first tour promoting this album and the music on the album the day after tomorrow, actually on Wednesday. The first stop will be Croatia. We're going to Rijeka, where we'll have a performance and a talk on that, part of a conference organized by the Wirth Institute of Austrian and Central European Studies from University of Alberta. And then shortly after, we will proceed to Budapest, where we will be playing a few concerts there, promoting the music. And then I'll continue on to Poland to perform more on my own. So the summer is shaping pretty nicely. It's quite busy. When I come back later in July, we do some studio work with my duo, and then go to Kansas City for a couple of concerts around Kansas City area. Then back again, and then go to Nashville to perform and at a conference there that is going to secure more work for us in a year from now, or touring. And then when fall comes in, our regular touring will resume. quite a few concerts in Canada, including Ontario, but majority of our work and touring will be happening in the US. And all that really leading to two major showcases in New York in January 2025. So plenty to do. Um,
6 months. You got two
yeah,
on the third on the way. You got the, and we didn't even talk about your choreographed work as well. Do you want to talk about that a bit too? The
I would love to mention a few things about it. I don't know if I ever told you that over the pandemic, in order not to go crazy, um, me and my business partner, Michael, accordionist, Michael Bridge, we conceived and commissioned a full orchestra show. It's a tango fusion show, meaning tango is fused with other musical genres. We fused it with jazz. We fused it with classical, Baroque music, of course. We fused it with actually some Swedish heavy metal. It's super interesting. It's something that um, speaks to nowadays fusion of genres in general, right? But we had no idea that it would go as far as having it choreographed. So last year, no, sorry, this year in January in New York, we met at a conference. We met this fantastic a contemporary dance company. They are called Water Street Milwaukee Dance, and they're based in Milwaukee. And we started brainstorming how would it be to actually have a version of this orchestra show for a clarinet, accordion, and MIDI tracks, plus dancers, and sure enough, times passed, a lot of emails, Zoom calls, and etc. happened, and this week we were me and Michael, we were in Milwaukee workshopping our first three songs of Tangorium, which is the name of the show, with the dancers. So a funny story. We arrived there. What was it? Today is today's Monday. So we arrived there last Thursday, and they said, "Okay, guys, sit down. We're going to show you how the choreography is going to look like with you in it. So these two people will represent you. So watch them because they are you." And I'm like, okay, sure, no problem. I sit down and I watch it, and I start and I see that these people just like run constantly, and they're in all kinds of virtuosic poses. It looks very artistic, but it looks exhausting when you have to play your instrument at the same time. So, and then I'm thinking, oh, that's interesting. And then a minute later, I see that these two dancers, they got lifted and put on other dancers' shoulders, and those dancers start running. And I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, that's a good joke. They have sense of humor, actually, because no, it would have never crossed my mind that someone will be lifting me up off the ground and running with me on their back, and I will have to be actually playing quite a demanding part." So, and then the whole workshopping process started. So anyways, but yeah, I had to really break out of my routine and of my little clarinetist box, or whatever you call it, my boundaries. I had to really transcend, my boundaries. Uh, but it taught me what it takes to bring the character to life and the music to life. And it all happened with projections, huge projections at the back of the stage. Very carefully thought through choreography that does make sense. All these acrobatics, they do make sense. It's not that it is just like off the wall, just to be there and to prove something. No, no, no. It makes artistic sense. With gorgeous lighting and spectacular music that we commissioned from one of Canada's top arrangers and composers, Mr. Charles Cousins, who's produced himself probably 30 full full-length Broadway shows, so he really knows how to do it. He created wonderful scores for us, and then he also managed to reduce it to a high quality MIDI tracks with which we can almost freely artistically play all of our lines. So the project is very multimedia, very dynamic and interactive, new, and makes everyone go out of their comfort zone and create a brand new experience for the spectators that are going to see it. So by the end of next week, I'll have a full video demo available online and on social media so everyone can see it. I think it's going to be something we'll be very proud of, and that is going to start touring in the following season.
It's amazing. Yeah, so much going on. And I've said this before on the program, but during the pandemic, I found
Could you
myself.
hold on? Could you hold on just a tiny little second? I need to put you on hold. I think I have a delivery. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Actually, as we speak, a delivery of the brand new album just came in. You see those boxes?
No way.
Yeah.
The
This
store.
is the brand new album that just came through the door. Let me just roll it into the living room because half of it has to go with me
Oh,
on tour. Maybe should I take one out and show it to you?
yeah, that's hilarious though, because we were just talking about how things seem to just work out with the timing and stuff. And here I literally just brought up this new album and it just showed up at your door. So yeah, fire the box open. Let's see one.
Okay, I'm going to do it properly. I'm going to open it right in front of you. So this is a brand new trio album that just arrived. Ladies and gentlemen.
Let's see. Let's see. Drum roll, please, or clarinet trill, please.
No, hold on. They really packed it. There's another one. But now you can get the drum roll going in 3, 2, 1, 0, and ta-da-da-da.
Wow. There it is.
It's brand new, right out of the box.
People will say
And,
it was planned.
and it's going on tour literally the day after tomorrow.
Wow.
That's really cool.
That's your first time seeing it then. It literally just
This
showed up.
is the first time. Well, I've seen it in a digital version, right? I had to write and approve the text, and then Michael did a lot of work on the graphics and on the audio tracks. And anyways, it's done. It's here.
It's remarkable how long that kind of stuff takes. And I remember, when I did my album, or even just getting posters done or whatever, you stare at it so long and you're like, I know there's a typo here somewhere. There's a typo here somewhere. I gotta find it. And then because you send it to print, it's going to come back. You spelled Stravinsky wrong or something.
Yeah,
And
no, a lot of proofreading to the point that at some point you are like, oh no, not again. It's not again. It's now that I had to learn this incredible part for Death and the Maiden. The string quartet is such an incredible part. There's literally no place for about 15 minutes to breathe, right? So it's all on circular breathing. So I thought that was a challenge. But then, actually producing the rest of it is a separate type of challenge. So you need to be very patient, a lot of perseverance, and a goodwill and good team. Guillaume Tardif, our violinist, he did a lot of editing himself. He supervised that part of it. Michael also did a lot of that too, and the graphic design. The graphic design on this CD was done by AI.
oh wow.
Yeah.
So it looks like trees or something, but those are AI trees. Is that what you're saying?
It looks like,
Yeah.
yes, AI actually, Guillaume, he programmed it. He programmed the layout of it and said what he wants in there. What is the music about? What is the text about? What the expectations are about? And the AI actually generated stuff according to it. So it looks aesthetically quite pleasing, I have to say. Yeah.
How do you
Wow.
feel about that? Because I find like this is kind of maybe an interesting trajectory I wasn't expecting to go on, but I've heard so much about, the AI art and this and that. And it's funny because I myself have also been kind of embracing the AI visual art and some interesting things that have come up and just for a variety of uses. But it dawned on me that I wonder if visual artists are feeling the same kind of negative vibes towards AI art as musicians would be towards an artist using AI music for their, you know what I mean? Like there's a fascination going on, but I wonder where the line is and I wonder what will kind of come of it, you know?
Yeah, well, I had this very interesting conversation recently with someone who has done programming for a living for many, many years. Started actually at the time when Microsoft and Apple started out in California and doing programming for his entire life. And the interesting question is, what does AI mean? Because when you say artificial intelligence, you assign you attribute it with similar features to human intelligence. And what I didn't know is that it's just a label for what it actually is, but it is unsure whether it is intelligence or this is data processing and collection, and it can have all kinds of glitches, but it doesn't necessarily have to. And it's all. It was explained to me in technical terms. I can't recall them exactly, but it is all dependent on how many webs of data and checkpoints one information goes through. So, and it's not confirmed that the outcome of whatever it produces can be called as an outcome of an intelligence or pre-programmed data analysis and putting it together through different webs of computers. And it's not that it is actually an intelligent being, so to speak. It's not. Therefore, it has to be understood that it is not as free as we think, as humans' mind is, right? So well, there's a lot of speculation. I mean, it's great with generating data and putting it together in situations such as like writing, you know. That's why there is so much plagiarism happening at universities because students, not only students, scholars want to use it as a tool, and then there is this moral debate whether or not it's creative writing and it can substitute writing by a person. But when it comes to painting, when it comes to music creation, um, definitely it's far from perfect. It doesn't mean, of course, that it will remain far from perfect. I mean, every year it is getting improved tremendously. But I think ultimately the question uh, is it is it moving? Right? Can it create an art that is actually moving? Is it art that comes from an inspiration, or is it art comes? Well, there's so many questions around the topic. I am not a an authority on it, but there's a lot of dark areas in this. So
Yeah, I've been wanting to find some kind of expert in the realm that could kind of talk to me about it a bit because it is very interesting. And I see valid arguments on both sides, actually. And I've also been appreciating it. And the creativity that it allows you to explore, even in music, is very interesting because, for example, the new version of Logic comes with an AI, not just drumming now, but AI keys and bass and all sorts of things. And what's interesting about this is that to use it as a writing tool to kind of expand on your songs in your own studio. Let's say you write a guitar part with some vocals or whatever, and you use a click track, and suddenly it can put together a full band for you, and you can hear what it sounds like in the same afternoon. That's amazing. That wasn't really possible before, and I don't think that many musicians are going to put that version on the final record. But it's a very cool tool to explore what it might sound like to work with different styles or different drumming or different setups within just a click of a mouse. Like it would take you hours to go find a different drummer to come in and play in a totally different style, but let alone setting up the instruments and all this stuff. But suddenly you can just click back and forth and experiment with different vibes and sounds, and it's interesting. So yeah, I think feeding the information about the pieces to it was actually a very creative use as well, because then it's a new form of art.
Well, we'll see. And I wouldn't be surprised if there will be a whole new genre that's going to get created that will be like AI generated and created music, or AI created visual art, or AI created, you know. What would be interesting and what would be very important to have is to have the right legislation as to how to use it um, in the right way, that respects copyrights and other artists' creativity, and that is not used in an illegal way, right? Because it is growing. This whole AI business is growing so fast that legislation is not necessarily following quickly enough to regulate it. So I just hope that our, governments and governing bodies will be on top of this, because there's an easy way for things to get out of control if we have this going unsupervised.
Totally, yeah. What was it like arranging? You mentioned the L'Histoire de Soldat. I mean, the original version, I believe, is for a chamber orchestra. I've played it, or one version of it anyway, years ago, and I think it was about 6 or 8 people. Um, and I remember I got to do it actually with Donald Bell, who was he's a famous, I believe he's a baritone, but he used to work with like Leonard Bernstein back in the day, and so that's kind of interesting. But he did a fantastic job. He's got to be 95 years old now, but although I loved performing the piece and playing it and everything about it, it's funny because I do have a recording of that piece, and it's just I was still in university, and it's fine to listen back to because some moments I'm like, man, this is just such an amazing piece, and other moments I'm like, oh yeah, I was still a student, you know. But no, it's just great to work with him, and it's a piece that I hold quite dearly because it's just a very great piece. So what
Well,
was that, and putting it into the accordion for?
well, I'll tell you what, this piece is so demanding, both artistically and technically, for everybody, that it will always make you feel like you are a student of this piece, No matter how advanced you are, it's such a complex piece, and it's got so many layers of meaning and storytelling, written into it for every instrument and for the voice, and et cetera, that it always leaves you a room to explore more and to grow as an artist. We took the version for piano, violin, and clarinet, and we worked with that version. It was the more logical way for us to approach the piece with accordion. And even that was difficult, and we had to remove some of the voicing from the piano and maybe add through some other lines from the more extended version just to make up for it. It was is a long process, but what made it worth it is that it actually sounds more folky with accordion, definitely, even though Michael plays it in a fantastic way. Like he's been classically trained accordionist as well, so he knows how to make it sound in the style of what Stravinsky wanted. But nevertheless, just having accordion in there um, allows you to draw these associations with folk music, and it uncovers another dimension of the piece, I would say, another layer that we couldn't think of before. Why did we do it with accordion? Well, because this is our trio. And we wanted to play the piece, and there was no reason of getting a pianist. Um, the other two parts, the violin and clarinet parts, they did not have to be altered. Some articulation had to be thought through again, because accordion is not a piano, right? And it can also sustain the sound, and it can shape the sound in the middle of the note as well, right? So there's more colors that came out of the piece. What was more of a challenge was to arrange Death and the Maiden for the trio, where accordion gets the part of cello on the second viol and viola, but this wasn't enough. So we had to actually fill out some of the harmonies with other voices, either as a passing notes or sustained notes, to make it sound more full. And that really was a huge challenge because there was no arrangement for piano there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Production.
So that really took a long time. And one movement, I think the second to the last movement, third movement, we actually skipped altogether because um, the idiomatic writing by Schubert for the string quartet was too precious to change it and give it a completely different meaning. So we left that alone. And that was an artistic choice on our part to leave that out. I mean, the piece itself with only three movements is long enough. It's like almost half an hour long already. So it's not that it is. Um, it's going to like the audience will crave for more music from us. So these two pieces, they together, they cover a huge area of emotional states and parts of Europe, of course, as well, um, and give you the opportunity to hear some true virtuosic playing as well as very lyrical playing and a lot of different colors. A lot of different colors. After playing in my duo with clarinet and accordion, I still, after 13 years of doing that, I still get amazed how well reed instruments complement each other. You know, we forget that accordion is a reed instrument. I mean, we shouldn't, we know, but like in the same sense as clarinet is, and it really for the blend, it always amazes me how well these two instruments can blend. Um, at some point, we ventured into playing with digital accordion. Michael is a true master of playing a digital accordion, which is a new instrument. It's only been available for last not even a decade, and can replicate sounds of different instruments and percussion and whatnot. You can add all kinds of sounds into it because it is a computer shaped like accordion. It also produces accordion sounds, and the dynamics can be and are controlled with bellows. So it's a sophisticated machine that allows our duo uh, to venture across all genres of music at this point. But it is always a great reminder of the super blend of reed instruments whenever I can play with acoustic accordion. And that brings the joy to the heart even more, like in a simple and very natural and organic way, I would say.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because I remember when you came to Calgary or Airdrie, I guess, some years ago. I wasn't quite sure what to expect with clarinet and accordion, and then especially in a live setting. But the accordion, the way Michael plays it, especially, it comes across almost orchestrally, like it's very rich in not only the tone, but the dynamic and everything about it was just very. It was amazing to watch, and I believe that he did have the digital one as well. So, are you guys still kind of playing some pieces with the digital and some with the acoustic accordion, or is this more of an acoustic type tour coming up?
Well, the reality of touring is such that every ounce matters. So touring with two accordions and some technical gear is definitely not the type of touring that we want to do all the time. This is why we divided different programs, and we separated digital from acoustic. So we have programs that we play on acoustic, clarinet and acoustic accordion, both amplified, in order to meet the demands of the type of venues that we are playing in, which are usually larger to large, soft-seated theaters or performing arts centers. And then we have another show that utilizes the digital accordion. What never changes is the amount of work that it requires to arrange music for our instruments. It's a long creative process, regardless the instrument of choice, whether it's a digital accordion or if it's acoustic accordion. It takes a long time to work out the best sounding arrangements. Both of us, we also play piano separately during our concerts. So, and then to blend, for instance, accordion with piano when I'm playing the piano, that takes time. To blend digital accordion with piano, it also takes time and thought. And now we also added another part to the show, which is projections. We have amazing projections done by a dear friend, Jean-Philippe Filkenstein, who is this incredible graphic designer who puts together projections that speak to the music that we play in order to create more immersive experience for our audiences. And it really resonates with a lot of people, especially I notice in the post-pandemic world when presenters struggle very often to get people away from their mobile devices or from streaming platforms, which people got used to visiting heavily and very often during the pandemic when we couldn't gather. So now, when you propose a program with projections, people who got used to streaming movies and concerts, they have an easier time to endure a 2 hour performance, and more so to enjoy it because there is this element of familiarity, of motion picture. And personally, I've noticed that it adds to the music a great deal of depth if done well, and also the size of it. Now, when we play in larger halls that have the capacity uh, to do large scale projections, like screens that run from the bottom of the stage all the way up to the ceiling, that creates a very special mood for the music that we arrange and perform. Sometimes we can use haze, but we also have a mapped out uh, lighting cues. So the production has grown just from what you saw this 8 years ago. The production grown exponentially, and we're following, sometimes trying to even exceed the demand of the market, the current market. And those demands are not only technical, but there's also a lot of demand on our creativity. You have to, you don't want to copy yourself too much. You want to come up with things that are fresh, that are original, not weird or not forcefully original. You want to have the time to digest things. You need to have time to maybe, read things, go to plays, travel. Um, so you accumulate life experiences and then you digest them and then you want to express them or add them to your creative artistic work. So it's a long process. As I said, we've been on our 13th year right now, uh, as a duo, and as business partners too, because we run business together, right? Um, on top of that, there is also teaching. There are students with their needs who are very important to me. Yes, I do tour, but I make sure that everybody gets their allotted time and that everyone gets the attention they deserve and need and more, you know. Um, there is also health that needs to be addressed. You need to take time off from touring. You need to be left alone and imagine that without mobile devices for a change, if you can.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. You need to maintain a healthy circle of friendships, of friends, because that's part of your mental health too. Um, so, and then there is also another, outlet of my own creativity, which is doing solo work, like the one that got Juno, like some solo work that is coming my way in next 2 seasons in Europe. that I will keep you updated in, and on top of that, the usual administrative work that has to be done around your performing career and also university um, work. So with time, I noticed that there's more and more responsibilities all of a sudden showing up, that they cannot be abandoned, they cannot be pushed away. So, and then there's also human nature. You don't always feel like doing all of that all at once, or even one puzzle at the time. Sometimes you feel like I've done it, I don't want to do more of certain administrative duties. But I think part of growing up is to accept the reality and carve out a piece of your mind that is responsible for that, and do not procrastinate.
Hard part, yeah. I mean, well, or to find a way to almost outsource the stuff that you know you're not going to get to or you know you're not good at. Like for me, for example, accounting. I used to just dread sitting there and going through my bookkeeping for the year, and now I just pay to get that done because I'm like, you know what? I just it doesn't bring me any joy. It doesn't bring my music or my whatever any closer to being. So let's just kind of offload that work over here.
I
Uh,
have to say, I couldn't agree more with you, Sean. But what I notice is when I outsource, I outsource a lot of work. Like, a lot of arranging, I also outsource, a lot of graphic design, a lot of accounting, a lot of PR work, a lot of website maintenance, even social media. Like I have a few people, a good team of people at play that I can rely on and trust them and send them stuff that you still have to compile, right? And explain. But then what I notice is that the trick is when you outsource something to your team, then you have theoretically you free up some time on your schedule, right? Now, for me, the trick is not to fill up that time with more work. Okay, because that really can be a vicious circle. So you free up some part of your schedule and then you take on more work. So what happens is after a while, you need to outsource that as well because it just outgrows, depending what kind of work that is. So I'm in the process still of learning of um, how to keep free time on my schedule, make it part of my schedule, and be at peace with that. So, in other words, not to feel guilty when I'm not doing anything,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, when I have the time. So, but I guess that must be part of a healthier routine, I think.
A few things like that. And it's good that you're cognizant of what's interesting that you're cognizant of some things that I've also been thinking about over the years. And I mean, you mentioned the lighting in your performances, and I've heard people before say, "Oh, that's all just superfluous and this and that and whatever." But it's been shown that it actually does kind of enhance the music. And I think that the logic behind that is kind of the same as when you go to a restaurant. Like if you have the exact same quality of food, but in one restaurant, there's a nice atmosphere. The music's a nice level. You can hear your friend talking or your partner or whatever. And the service is very good and the wait staff are dressed appropriately versus another one that's just terrible service and the music's too loud. Like you're not going to enjoy the meal as much, right? And I think that music can kind of draw from that too. But moving all the way to what you're talking about now is taking rest even and just being mindful that this exists as a thing. I'm reading a book right now. I can't remember the title, but it's about all these different pieces of making sure that your health and mind stay together throughout your career, And basically that's a very good point is that you want to make sure to schedule rest into your day like it's your job, you know. And
Absolutely.
it's this author,
Absolutely.
she says, even though he's a doctor, he schedules every day at 10:30 a 15-minute walk just to get outside, get moving, take a break from his phone and just be with himself for 15 minutes a day. And originally, his manager really didn't like this because, well, what's he doing? He could see one more patient. But what ended up happening is he was way more efficient and effective throughout the entire day that it made sense, you know?
Yes.
So,
I couldn't agree more. I've noticed something really weird about myself. I went on a beautiful holiday not too long ago, actually. The only time I had free at the end of May, for the rest of the year, by the way, was to go, and I took time to go on holiday. And I went to a place that is super remote, in Canada, and they have no Wi-Fi there. And you know what I noticed? I noticed that I spent 3 days there, and I was so anxious. You know, I was so anxious that there is no Wi-Fi, no cellular network. Um, the phone, like there was a cable phone because it was a camp, and rightfully so. There should be places in this world where there is no technology, where there's just nature and you, right? You and the nature. And I thought to myself, something is not right. I mean, I must be addicted to this, you know. Um, it's so when I do have Wi-Fi, I don't use my mobile devices all the time, but somehow I feel more at peace that I do have access to everything. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what, like the world can live without me for 3 days, but I could not switch off the anxiety for a while. For the first, I don't know, 48 hours, I felt I couldn't enjoy the beautiful nature with a calm, peaceful mind. So this is where I noticed how much more, therefore, important it is important to know how to and when to switch off.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's something everyone struggled with, and it's not something I imagined when the iPhone first came out because we had never seen that before, you know? And but over the time, I don't know if you remember, but back in about 2006, just before the iPhone came out, there was a group of people that used Blackberries a lot, and people used to call them crackberries up in Canada because they were so addictive, right? And everyone would make fun of them, you know. Oh, these people are all addicted to their phones, you know. And now look at all of us. Yeah, I go to a park with my kids, and I see there's two parents on a bench staring down at their phone like this while their kids playing on the playground. And I'm like, what are you doing? I saw two people sitting on a bench waiting for a bus both on their phones while their kid was like running around the bus stop. He could get hit by a car or I mean just it was just remarkable. Anywhere you go, people just look down at their phones all the time. And it's the weirdest thing. So you're right though, to take a break from that is it does cause a strange anxiety and but that's the other thing this book was saying is 90 minutes before you go to bed and an hour after you wake up, don't touch your phone because
Uh,
it lets you just start your day. I mean, really, do you have to check your emails before you brush your teeth and have a shower? Like maybe it's better that you don't, you know? Just give yourself that moment of peace to have your coffee and literally wake up. I mean, this was not a thing back in the great ages of the 20th century, for example. I think about the great composers, how they lived, people throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s, especially the composers I really like. Um, they didn't wake up and start their work before having it's so backwards,
it's
you know?
backward. Yeah, I made a resolution for myself because I remember the days when I was feeling very anxious every time I didn't practice my clarinet.
Hmm.
That was pre-iPhone.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, so I'm more anxious now not having Wi-Fi than actually having time off from practicing.
Yeah.
Okay, when did that happen in my mind? When did I get rewired? And I don't like some answers to those questions.
No.
But the punchline is that I did get rewired. We all, to a certain extent, are getting rewired. Our brains get rewired by this technology. And I decided to actually put the end to it. So I'm very mindful about my use or time spent on mobile devices. In fact, I'm thinking to myself, I might get myself one of those dumb phones, you know, to be able only to text or to call. Because what's wrong with calling people? People would spend more time texting or drafting emails instead of just picking up a phone and calling somebody these days, right?
That's what I find. You go back and forth in an email thread 10 deep, something you would have, 20 years ago, you would have just solved it on the phone in 2 minutes.
Exactly. So I made a policy with my team that I will be phoning them and they can call me at any time as well. So if there are documents that need to be emailed, of course, that's a different story. But for every little thing, it's call,
I think
regain those skills as a human being to communicate verbally and talk to one another.
you're right. It's almost a skill, or it is a skill, just to be able to relax and enjoy vacation or time off or anything really. I found myself a couple years ago now. I was going to see Radiohead, which I always love Radiohead. So I was at a concert, but I found myself so anxious because I was like, looking forward to the next song so much. And like I knew all the previous set lists in my mind, and I was like, based on this set list, I'm not sure if they're going to play my favorite song. Like, oh my God, this is math. And I found myself so anxious and wired up about this. And I finally just realized, like, look, I'm here to enjoy a concert. Like, why can't I just sit and watch the music happen? It was the weirdest thing, but my mind was working like a million miles a minute. And, but this is everybody. I mean, even I noticed our 5-year-old, she was doing something the other day and she said, "Oh, can I watch my iPad?" And I said, "Well, I think she was having a bath and she was watching something before and she wanted to keep watching it." And she's like, "Well, I don't see why I can't." I'm like, "Well, you can't because you're having a bath now. Like, enjoy your bath. Like, because you can take it in the bathroom doesn't mean that you should. Like, just enjoy your bath, you know." And I said, "Look, when I was your age, I, there was no such thing as the internet. There was no such thing as an iPad or any of this stuff. And it's not that you shouldn't use it, but like, you have to learn to be at peace with just yourself and what's around you. Like when I was a kid, I didn't have an iPad. I had a notepad with a pencil. I would I would basically just draw. My mom had an extended meeting or something, and we were called upon to just sit around. Yeah, you just sit there and play with a rock, draw something on a piece of paper, twiddle your thumbs, literally. Like there was nothing to do, and that boredom enabled people to think a certain way and reach a certain level of peace. I think on the inside that we don't often see anymore. So
Technology is great. It definitely is great, and but it should be used in a more systematic way and more constructive way. And everything that is constructive, whatever is constructive in our lives, I would argue that it is somehow protected by some boundaries. You know, things that are just boundaryless, they're not constructive. You know, everything is a mishmash of things. So the same goes with, for usage of technology.
every person spends at least an hour a day writing emails, maybe more. And especially if that person has like a job that involves a computer screen, I would
Yes.
say that a lot of people spend, I don't know, at least half their day, maybe more, writing and replying to emails. Makes me wonder what work used to be like 50 years ago. Like, what did you do before emails? You
You
know.
would be, you would be exercising the art of writing, like
Mhm.
that, or reading, or having things written on paper. Uh, what I have against sometimes technology is that it releases you from the basic knowledge of spelling sometimes, right? You can just dictate things and there's autocorrect and it's just done. And I'm thinking to myself, one of the pillars of humanity, or our civilization, is being literate.
Mhm.
Literacy.
Well, that's how you think.
That's how, well, it influences your thinking. It challenges your thinking too. Be literate, being able to speak, write, read, musical literacy, being able to write your music out, things like that, know the notes and stuff. Um, yeah, it's just when technology gets to numb your mind, this is when you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, totally. Well, as always, interesting conversation. We tend to get very philosophical, which actually I like that because you need to think about these things, and I think that if people don't think about these things, they actually put themselves at a bit of a disservice in this world these days. And I think that you're right. That every minute you can free up, whether it's from offloading something to somebody else, or in this case, even deciding, I'm going to fit all my emails into an hour today, and I'm going to leave the ones that I don't get done till tomorrow so that I can practice or whatever. To prioritize real life over emails, I think is a good path for anyone listening, I suppose.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's great. Well, thank you very much, Sean, for having me again, and for sharing some of your life experience and your thoughts. And I don't think there's ever too much philosophy in our lives. At the end of the day, what is life without philosophy?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
too. So I'm sure that you've got links to all of the places you're going on tour on your website. Do check that out. I'll put that in the description of this video on YouTube. And yeah, do head on over to the streaming platforms too and buying CDs, anything like that to support Michael and Kornel's work. I can't wait to check out the recent 3 albums, I guess, including the one that's not quite out yet. But you said July 1st, that's the launch of the So by the
Yeah,
time this
but
airs,
there's the launch of the one that just arrived, in those boxes here.
what are the odds?
What are the odds? Exactly. But anyways, I think it's a good omen for the tour and for the creative juices of my own. So, and let's not forget what's important, really. It's the mental, spiritual, and physical health. I think that's some people can argue about the order of the three that I just mentioned. It's highly personal, but I think in one way or the other, all these three components, these elements of our being are super precious and very important to protect, at all possible costs that we can, with the cost of protecting it is actually our time. You need to dedicate time to all three of these. So on that note, let's maybe pause and uh, and and keep moving on, keep being creative, keep being protective of our time, um, and and keep being what what would you wish for?
Yeah, I think people should just keep being inspired to work on what they want to work on, and music enabling. And based on what you just said too, I had the realization a while ago that, all those things, they seem superfluous, but they're actually what supports the art. Like if you're not healthy, you're not happy, you're not whatever, what
Yeah.
kind of art
So
can you?
maybe good balance.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I like that. Balance. There's the word.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Sean. It's been a great pleasure sending all the best vibes and as much positivity out there to all of our viewers and listeners. And good luck to you with with keeping us all in the loop of what's going on in our wonderful, community. Wishing you all the best and till the next time.
Also, you as well. Thanks so much for coming on the program for now.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
The Clarineat podcast is brought to you in part by one of my favorite products ever, Boveda two-way humidity control packs. I live in a super dry and cold climate in Canada, and so taking care of my instruments is a real challenge. However, it's effortless with Boveda. Every 3 months, I just replace the Boveda pack in my case, and I know my clarinets will be comfy and cozy inside. If you use cane reeds, there's also a mini version that fits inside most reed cases and keeps your reeds at their best, so they're ready to play when you are. Check out Boveda's offerings for clarinetists at bovedainc.com and use code Clarineat at checkout to save 10% on your next purchase. Click the link in the description below to learn more.